Marianne, you hear the beat of fear within you? Fear that will rise to a shattering crescendo of terror. You have strayed into a world of evil, where frightened people are held in the grip of unearthly horror. Beware of pity for the handsome prisoner in the Castle Meister. Beware of love, for in your heart is only the pulsating throb of terror.
Hi folks, it's Mike Dobbs, one of your Cine Geezers. I just want to do a quick introduction and an explanation about the episode you're about to see. It features a great guy who I have known for decades, as has Steve Bissette has known for decades, through his incredible work on the magazine Little Shoppe of Horrors. Dick Klemensen has done a remarkable job in chronicling the history of British horror and science fiction films. Well, we had a great discussion with him, but occasionally the internet went out. So I've done my best to edit those dead spots out. I just wanted to let you know that you may see a little glitchy job. You know, I'm 71 and I'm still learning this fancy dancy iMovie thing. So anyway, lean back and enjoy a great discussion with Dick Klemensen, myself, and Steve Bissette.
There it is. Okay.
Gorgo, right behind you.
Right here.
Okay, folks, the Cine-Geezers are gearing up for yet another discussion, but this is different because it's our first with a guest, and not just any guest. We're talking about Dick Klemensen, legendary publisher, writer, editor of Little Shoppe of Horrors. And by the way, folks, if you haven't seen the new Little Shoppe of Horrors, oh my God. Look how thick that puppy is. This is all about the British science fiction film Gorgo. And Dick, we wanted to talk to you because, number one, this is Bissette's meat and potatoes right here. And he, of course, contributed not only to this publication with an article about Gorgo in comic books, but also he contributed to the recent restored Gorgo release. And right now he's got a little bit of drool coming out of the edge of his mouth.
I do. I had to put my drool cup to the side because I wanted to look like I was controlling myself. So
that's right. For those of you who do not know who Dick Klemensen is, he has come to the forefront of film historians who has dedicated much of their life to making sure we know something about a particular studio, a particular genre. In Dick's case, he has focused initially on Hammer films, but he, over the course of many, many years, he's talked about Amicus. Now he's talking about Gorgo. I mean, if it was a horror or science fiction film, there's a very good chance that Dick Klemensen's magazine has covered that film.
If it's British.
That's why I said, didn't I say British?
If it's British, right.
No, we're emphasizing again. You probably did. But remember,
Okay,
let's say so we don't remember
British one more time so I don't look like a freaking idiot.
If it's British.
This much into the broadcast. So Dick, thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Well, glad to be here as a couple of friends. Mike Dobbs goes back a long ways. Was it Animato?
Animato, yeah.
Yep. And his research into the Fleischer brothers. And now I'm in the middle of reading your book about Tom Tyler.
Oh, I hope you're enjoying it.
Steve Bissette is one of the very first subscribers to Little Shoppe of Horrors back in the early 70s.
Yeah, so I was in high school, Dick.
Yeah, I just got out of the Army, and I had discovered fanzines like in '69.
So you started Little Shoppe of Horrors when you got out of the U.S. Army?
Yes, I discovered fanzines like Gary Cervela's Gore Creatures and Mark Frank's Photon, and the last issues of Cine Fantastique before it was. I'd done a humor magazine in 62, 63 in junior high called Fleabag. Not very funny, but I liked the idea of publishing. And initially, it was just going to be a standard issue. You know, we had an interview with Lon Chaney, Vincent Price. We covered Toho, but my interest tended to focus on Hammer and British horror. And it just sort of exploded from there until 1978. We did Little Shop #4, kind of the Bible of Hammer films. Anthony Hines produced, said it's the greatest thing he ever saw in Hammer. So that was good for the ego.
Wow.
Now, you're working on your last issue.
Yes.
That's correct? Is there a particular theme to that one?
Kind of the stuff we hadn't covered before in a sense, but the cover is The Abominable Snowman, which we'd never done anything on. So that's the good. The bad is we have 20,000 words on Horror Frankenstein. That's the bad. And we got, what the heck is this? The Gamma People.
Yeah, that's my fault.
We have unpublished interviews with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, and I'm looking at the list. That's a lot of stuff I'm going to be jamming. No 270 pages this time. It's going to be slick paper. It's going to have some color in the inside. It's going to be like a standard Little Shop. I started it. It's going to end with me. A couple people approached, say, "Oh, maybe we continue." And I said, "Nah, this is mine." Plus, I almost know they would want me to be involved. And when I'm done, I'm done.
Yeah.
Movies to watch, books to read. I mean, with you two writing like that, it'll take me forever to keep caught up in all your books.
Well, we'll keep you on the comp list from this point on.
Absolutely.
I can't tell you how much Little Shop of Horrors meant and means to me. As I mentioned, the first issue when I wrote to you, Dick, and sent probably one of my first checks that I ever put through the mail. I had discovered zines through some of the zines you mentioned. Mark Frank's Photon was a favorite. Gore Creatures, when it was still called Gore Creatures, from Gary and Susan Svela. But Little Shop of Horrors really, pushed everything to a new level. I was also a real fan of Greg Shoemaker's Japanese fantasy film journal, which was much cruder in terms of layout and so on. But Greg was really breaking new ground, and people forget how radical it was to love Hammer films in the 60s and 70s. And I recently wrote about that when I mentioned Rush Jones's Monster Mania, when it was unthinkable that there would be a newsstand magazine dedicated to Hammer films. It's not that much before your first publishing Little Shop of Horrors #1 that we had Carlos Claren's classic book, An Illustrated History of the Horror Film. And he really set the tone of, there were certain Hammer films that were worthy of attention, and then the rest would be dismissed. You changed that completely with Little Shop of Horrors, I dare say.
Well, so many outside maybe Alan Frank, so many of the people doing those generic books back then, which pretty good, wrote off Hammer. But when I'm sitting at the drive-in on a Wednesday night, I had mono that summer in '69. I had broken up with my girlfriend, Margot. I'd gone out drinking the week before with a friend of mine and got so sick that I threw up all over the wall in my bedroom. My mother about killed me.
Oh.
So I went to the triple feature. And when Dracula is on the stake and the ground at the fall, I said, damn, what is this? And I went home that night and blessed my mother. I had a few copies of Castle Frankenstein and Famous Monsters, and I started writing off the fanzines. And you're right, there was nothing. It's like kind of with the old Universal people. All those people were still alive in the 60s and the 70s. Nobody except a few that Tom Weaver did, nobody made any attempt to contact them.
Right.
I mean, when I contacted Jack Asher, the great lighting cameraman, on 13 or 14 of the greatest Hammer, he basically wouldn't talk about it. He said what I did wasn't worth anything. and his daughters had to talk him into it. And I'm on the new Curse of Frankenstein 4K from England. I'd gotten to know Phil Leakey and his wife through Roy Ashton, the makeup man. And his son later told me, Peter said, his dad started to appreciate his work because of what you said and published, and when you and my first wife visited. So nobody made any attempt. And when they did, they tended to, they really weren't worth anything. They weren't Jack Pierce.
Well, also, I mean, I had a taste of, I attended the Joe Kubert School of Cartoon and Graphic Art. I was a member of the first ever class. And among our teachers were some of the pre-code horror comic book artists who are revered today, like Lee Elias. There's an entire book out now about Lee Elias reproducing a lot of that pre-1954 horror comic art he did. Lee was ashamed of that work in 1976. He would not discuss it with us, you know, and he initially found it upsetting that students like myself were really interested in that work. You know, like it was a point of suspicion to Lee Elias that we liked the covers he had done for, you know, Harvey's horror comics. And so, I mean, that's kind of the filter that I'm listening to you through when you talk about Phil Leakey and Jack Asher. I think in a lot of professions, there's bodies of work where the professionals who did that work have been shamed so many times by their peers or by what critics wrote that they start to disparage their own work.
Well, trying to think of the guy, he was the focus puller. Len Harris was cam robber. Harry Oakes, he would go to like union meetings or other meetings, and they'd stand up and say where they were working in England, and they'd say, well, Hammer Films, and they'd laugh at him.
God.
And then here is, these are still known in all the big films from the 60s, like Charge of the Light Brigade. Nobody knows the films even existed.
Yeah.
When you tap in to imagination, like with your comic book artists and with Hammer, it just never seems to go away. It hits you young, and you still love it when you're older. I mean, my two grandsons were doomed because my son and his wife both love Hammer films.
Well, and I raised my kids on them as well, starting with Ray Harryhausen with, you know, films like 1 Million Years BC. So,
but yeah, I come on, I'm 24 years old, virginal little guy, going back to college. I got on January. It's interesting you had mentioned Greg Shoemaker, because I'm driving across Ohio and a horrendous blizzard in like January 2nd or 3rd, 1972. But the next day I went and visited Greg. But I did the first issue June of 1972, the next issue like May of 73, and it just, all the ups and downs of life would come into it. There was no computers in those days. It was paced up. For the first 3, my mother and I would sit around my bed, because I was living at home going to college, sorting those pages one at a time. Kind of like what Greg was doing with Japanese Fantasy Film Journal.
right.
And it took 4 years between number 3 and number 4 to come out. Number 3 was pretty good. We had the first real Terence Fisher interview, but I hooked up with my first wife, who'd been my friend, and there's nothing like regular sex with a beautiful woman to slow you down in other areas. And Carla liked those too, and I raised her 2 sons. They were 4 and 6 when we met. And I always like to point this out. Last August, 50 years almost to the day, I adopted them. And my ex-wife was there, and the attorney said, I've never had somebody adopt 2 15-year-old men before. I said, well, they're my boys. I mean, we've been together after their mom walked out on us. Yeah. First, wow. I couldn't afford it. And then when I could afford it, time was running out. And suddenly you're looking at 80 and you say, I want to do this.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I'm glad it worked out. They get along really well with my Nancy.
Dick, I should also mention, because Mike won't, Mike was doing a fanzine early on too. A Nerdtron, was it, Mike? The title?
Nerdtron, yeah.
A Nerdtron.
Oh, I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah. So Mike was doing old school fanzines as well. And that was what, Mike? Early 70s, late 60s?
Yeah, I graduated from high school in 72, and I had started this in high school, so maybe around 70, 71. And
About the same time I did.
And,
Yeah.
and Dick, I
I always
followed.
thought I didn't review it in an initial little shop because I've always, until the last issue, did fancy reviews.
Yeah.
I took a similar route. I I realized reading Famous Monsters that there was such a thing called fanzines. And I can tell you that among the first ones that influenced me so much was Photon. In fact, I've just in a storage box I got here on my feet. I've got that great issue of Photon about vampires in the cinema.
Vampire
Oh, that
Checklist.
was my very first one, Ron Borst.
Yeah, and it had that really nice atmospheric drawing of Peter Cushing. Um, just
Right.
tremendous.
Art and artwork by Richard Corbin. Richard Corbin did a lot of those spot illustrations for
And
that.
Dave Woodward did that front cover.
That's
I mean,
right.
I say that because he's the guy who designed the Little Shop of Horrors logo
Oh,
Well,
really? Oh,
back
wow.
in 19 for Little Shop number 4 in 78.
Wow.
I always viewed fanzines as sort of underground because you couldn't buy them off of a newsstand. And I bought everything I could. I was probably the only high school kid in Western Massachusetts that was regularly buying Variety. If Variety was on my newsstand, I bought Variety. And now I kept from the 70s all of those annuals, all of those special
All those
Cannes
huge
Film
inserts in
Festival.
color.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and I gave them to Bissette. So
I
it
have them over there, Richard. So,
so it would help him on some of his very specific um, research that he's doing. But you know, it was underground. It was like if I read about a fanzine in a little shop of horrors that sounded good, I would put my $1.25 or whatever in cash, no less,
Oh,
in an
yeah.
envelope and send it off, and send them a copy of mine, hoping they'll say something nice. Um, I think it befuddles young people to understand that there was really a means of communication and creating community that did not involve the internet. Instead, it was people mailing stuff to one another and sharing what they were producing. And right, Gore Creatures, that was another early one for me as well. Um,
Well, my
and, you
friend Gary
know,
Dorst used to
yeah,
introduce me to that. He died, God, 2013 now. And
mm,
he's one of the first 40 kids. Uh, a little off topic. Have you guys hit the point where you're looking at downsizing? Because that's why I'm in the process. Most of my fanzines that probably include Intertron were sold to Steve Dolnick, who sold them to John Ballantyne, the great fanzine collector.
ah,
They're doing a documentary on Little Shop of Horrors. Christian Day, who got nominated for a Emmy for a 3-part thing he did on the super chief fan who turned out also to be a bank robber. But he's like Steve was saying, he's young, he's fascinated by the fan scene. I gave him all my old horror magazines because I looked in the box and said, what am I going to do with these? My kids don't want these. These are all dumpster bound. And like I was telling you about John Logan, who lost everything in the fires, I've been sending him books and stuff and posters. And I said, I want these to end up with people who appreciate it.
yeah. I've donated a majority of my pre 1990 career papers to a university library in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. And I'm in conversation with 2 other libraries where I'm hoping the collection will go. Because, like you, Richard, I mean, we have surviving kids who are adults. They're not interested in this stuff. You know, I mean, they love the movies, but the ephemera, the artifacts, are going to be baggage to them. So my hope, including my Little Shop of Horrors complete collection, will be going to a university collection where researchers and scholars can access the material. Um, and
NYU has a complete run. I just finished sending a complete run to the Academy, Margaret Herrick.
oh, wonderful,
very good.
wonderful,
Very
wonderful.
good. I have been asked to approach the recently created film studies program at the University of Massachusetts, which is where I went to school, about donating my stuff. I'm also approaching our city library here in Springfield because, like Steve, I got a lot of stuff. Um, My foster daughter once said, "Once you die, I throw it all out," which really offended me
But
and
yet,
made me
but
realize that
if
I
they
got to
don't have,
do something
what do
for it.
what do you do with it? We're of a generation who collected a lot of physical crap. My oldest boy, even though he's 57, he doesn't collect anything. He doesn't keep anything. If he
Well,
buys a movie, it goes digital.
I'm fortunate in that our son Danny, who just turned 40 like 2 weeks ago, he worked for 3 years, 2 to 3 years with used bookshops in Oakland, California. He knows what to do, in terms of liquidating these kind of collections. It's not a career choice for him. It's not anything he particularly wants to engage with. But a week ago last year, I had a plumbing leak in our kitchen that wiped out $17,000 worth of books here in my basement library.
Oh my gosh.
And I knew what to do. Like anything that was unsalvageable, I cataloged. I noted whether it had a dust jacket or not, what edition it was. And our son Danny did all the legwork, and the insurance company accepted it because he knew what he was doing, and he basically prepared a price list. And some of it was worth nothing, but the Stephen King first editions, and he recognized which books had value. That's part of what kicked me in the ass in terms of, okay, I need to find libraries that are interested in this, and whatever they're not interested in, as you're doing, Dick, I will find a home for.
yeah.
So
Well, it's been strange. I thought it'd be tougher giving it away. I've been giving a bunch of autographed copies of Little Shoppe of Horrors to John Logan. I just dug out the one. I've got Linda Hayden autographed the blood front or what the heck's it called? Whatever it is, it's a copy. There we go. Are You Afeared? The Making of Blood from the Mummies too. Autographed by Linda Hayden. Our
Blood on Satan's Claw.
Yeah, yep.
Wow.
Blood 1979 Dracula autographed by John Badham.
Wow.
And I've got Valerie Leone autographed copy of our Hammer Mummy series. They're sitting in boxes underneath my desk.
Yeah.
I said, what am I waiting for? And we kept a few that I have a copy of The Woman in Black issue signed by Daniel Radcliffe, who loved it, which is cool. I said, I'm keeping this.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic issue too. I'm holding on to stuff right now because I'm hoping. My parents lived to their early 90s. I have no reason to expect I will, but at age 70, about to turn 71, I'm still writing books. I'm still writing articles. So I still use all the material right now. So for me, it's still a living library, but I totally get the point you're at. I'll be where you're at, Dick, in 10 years if I make it,
I read everything. I read military history. I read sports.
Oh yeah.
I read science fiction. I have tons, like say, the movie stuff. You guys remember that great 8-10 part series on MGM that TNT did for years back? The guy who played in Star Trek Next Generation, Captain, narrated it. But they
Patrick Stewart.
Come up with a fantastic book on it. Well, that's another one I set on.
Yeah.
I said, I'm never going to open this again. My wife wants to get in the Kindle. Said, I got 1,000 books now I haven't read. I'm working halfway through Mike's book. I just got the first two parts of Greg Coulan's Willis O'Brien books. I mean, I looked at.
Oh, those are fantastic. But I have to say, Dick, I'm glad we lived long enough to read Greg Coulan's books on Willis O'Brien.
That's the great thing about Kindle Direct Publishing.
It is. I mean,
we could never done Gorgo. 270 pages on Gorgo.
Yeah. Now, when we're talking about getting rid of books, I'm never going to get rid of my Monarch paperback of Gorgo.
Yeah, because you got like Joe Dante, you got all the dirty parts underlined.
Well, that's it. And in some of these, I even still have the bookmark that Monarch put out for Conga. So like stuff like this,
guy in town.
I know I can't take it with me, but yeah. And as you say, like Joe Dante, it's not that I underlined it because I kept them hidden from. I didn't want my parents to ever pick it up and find that. But I also knew as a kid, my mom, who was devout Catholic, was never going to pull Gorgo off my bookshelf. She had no idea what was in these paperbacks whatsoever. So,
Mike, how many issues of Innertron did you do?
Oh, I think there was 7 or 8 issues. It was very sporadic. Um,
Tell me about that.
but at some point, I've toyed with the idea of reprinting everything, but
oh, you should. Oh, you
no, I
should.
shouldn't because I would feel honor bound to pay all of the contributors because that's
No.
the way I am. And I thought about this many years ago, and I thought, what if I did a book where we you could reproduce really good articles that appeared in fanzines and sort of introduce other elements of film appreciation through fanzines. And I approached one guy who I no longer speak to because he doesn't speak to me. Um, uh, we can call him Mr. X, but his real name is Scott McQueen. Um,
Oh, I haven't talked to
and
you.
Scott begged me not to reprint one of his articles because he felt it was something he did as a young man and that it wasn't up to his standards now. But so I'm not going to reprint any of that. But I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have done certain things in Animato, excuse me, in Innertron, and for that matter, Animato,
Adam Model's amazing.
um, that have served me well. Like in the Tom Tyler book, I mean, unfortunately, I could not get interviews with people back in the day. But the few that I did was one of them was Big Jim Pierce, who was
Oh,
Edgar Rice
Oh,
Burroughs'
yeah.
son-in-law and the star of Tarzan and the Golden Lion. And he worked with Tom. Um, and so I've been lucky that I did all sorts of primary interviews for the Fleischer book and for the Tyler book way back when all those folks were alive. And now, thanks to YouTube, the Internet Archive, Tubi, all of this stuff on streaming, it enabled me, the Lantern media outlet as well. It enabled me to actually put these books together in a way that was truly, I think, comprehensive. I think
Um,
it's because I've had a lot of people say to me, well, when are you going to do this? Why did you abandon this? And it's like, I didn't abandon it. I live in freaking Massachusetts. And
exactly.
to do film research before the internet, it meant going to New York, going to Los Angeles, going to the Library of Congress. I never made it LA, but I did drive to the Library of Congress and set up an appointment, and they allowed me to see films out of their collection. I would go down to New York, go to um, the library that's at the Lincoln Center. They've got a performing arts library at the Lincoln
Right.
Center, and I would go there and mine that as much as I could. I
it,
don't.
yeah,
It's a lot easier if you lived in New York or LA back then.
like
Now,
Well,
Tom Weaver, yeah.
yeah, and Dick, you were in Iowa. I grew up in Vermont. I'm still in Vermont. I
so
mean,
how the hell did we do it, guys?
how did we
Well,
do it?
I wrote letters. I've been going through my filing cabinets, and I hate to say it, 99% is going to get thrown away. And it's not because I'm not going to throw away Hammer stuff but it's somebody 50 years ago saying, I really liked the interview with Joe Schmo, and boy, that article with Bob was really terrific. You know, it's just, there's
Yeah,
nothing
you're
there.
not going to hold on to that. No, no.
No, I've given
But
anything of value.
I have to say, in bringing up the point about reprinting, I mean, what you did, Dick, to honor fanzines is you had an ongoing history of horror film fanzines serialized in Little Shop of Horrors. This is the Demons of the Mind issue for those of you interested, issue 31. And these articles are definitive. They're filled with photographs. You really honored the fanzine history that you're such an active part of with these chronicles. It's an
You mentioned
amazing
Mark
library.
Frank. He and I spent a couple hours after I wrote it on the phone, kind of correct checking it. He says, I can't believe you're doing this. I says, well, I'm the editor. I can do any damn thing I want to do.
There you go.
And if I
Exactly.
want to say the last one, and it's not really a fanzine, you know, it's going to be cult movies. And I said, yeah, I like cult movies. So yeah, I'm glad we did get. And one was Greg Shoemaker. A
Yeah.
lot of Japanese.
Yeah.
You're talking about what it takes to imagine. Look at Gorgo, our Gorgo issue. There's Steve out in Vermont getting buried by the snow. And who's writing the main article? He's in New Zealand.
Yeah.
The cover artist is in Florida. The back cover artist is in New Jersey. The research and all the stuff we got are universities in England. In fact, that's how we found the contact sheets for those ridiculously rare behind the scenes stuff from Gorgo. I've never seen anything like this.
I know that stuff is phenomenal. It's incredible.
And then you get good old Ernie Farino in Texas who takes those, pulls them, cleans them up. And there's people all over the place to put this together.
Not only that, I mean, Gorgo is the focus of it, but this half of, I would say a third to a half of this book finally explained who the King brothers were.
Yeah, three thugs who actually made some really good movies.
Amazing movies. Now, through Mike Dobbs, I got to meet and spend a bit of time with Richard Gordon and his brother Alex over the years. And they would sort of flippantly make comments about the King brothers. And, you know, it wasn't ever a focus of a conversation, but I would hang on those sentences like, who are these guys, you know? And Richard in particular, I remember saying, because I would ask about, you know, Richard, did you know them? I mean, you know, why anything about this film they made, Gorgo? And Richard would say, they love their mother. And that would be it. That would be the beginning and end of Richard's comment about Gorgo, right?
Well, when Anthony McKay first brought it up, you have to really rein him in word-wise. When he did Village of the Damned, Children of the Damned, that split in 2 issues. Same way with The Haunting, which I went a little crazy with the sidebars on, kind of through the, but it still was good.
Oh,
and that's what Gorgo's going to be, as a 30,000 words. And then we got going, and then we found them freaking photographs, and then we found the artwork. We found this and that, and I said, and then you come forward with comic books, and Lee Kaplan with the models. I said, okay, this print on demand, and we're not going to cheap jacket because there's 3 levels of printing from Kindle, as you would know.
Right.
We were going the top level, which is why initially we didn't do hardcover. But I've got every issue of Little Shop out as both a reprint, soft cover, and a hardcover. And we're very close to having all of them as Kindle readers.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Man, 21st century, ain't it a thing?
True enough. True enough. I also wanted to ask you about when you were making decisions about what was going to go in the issue of Gorgo. You had so much material, visual material, and you kept them all at a very pleasing size, which of course adds to the page count. But you're also working with cover artists like, you know, Mark Maddox, doing the cover and so on. How do you and Nancy approach the whole aspect of art directing a publication like this?
I will mull around, because Nancy loves these films. She told me when she saw a first copy of Little Shop, if I'd known about this, I'd have invited you on and said, well, you just saved me a lot of problems with girlfriends. And my not very great second marriage, not the first one was all that great, but at least she liked the movies. I'll just jot down, well, what can I get materials on? It's no good to cover something that's already been done. There's nothing new to add. And somebody will bring something up like Gorgo. Then we find out that all these materials still reside with the King brothers. And so we had clearance from the rights holder. And then we find the university library in England, and we contact them. And because we had the rights and it's going in a magazine, not a book, we didn't have any clearance problems.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of, I'll say something, well, I have this or I have that. Like you, I didn't know you knew that much about that. I know you studied the history of comic books and that, but I didn't know you knew that much about Gorgo and Reptosaurus and Conga and the whole bit. Gorgo smash. But no, and it's like Topsy. It just keeps going and going and going. You discover people, all the artists. I mean, you get somebody like Bruce Timm working for you, who approaches you and says, can I work for you? I didn't know who Bruce Timm was. It's
Oh
not
my
because
God. Oh
I'm
my
into that
God.
stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
But then I just wasn't in comic books. And he wrote me a fan letter in 1993. And Neil Volk says, you know who Bruce Timm is? I go, no. Then Bruce sent me some drawings from his Batman series. And then after issue 38, he said, I've got to drop all my fan work. That's all I seem to be doing at nights. But you saw the book that just came out. My God, half the book is little shop stuff.
Yeah, Mike has a copy of it right there.
There you go. It's a beautiful book. And there's so much Little Shop of Horrors reference in this book. It's really nice. I mean, it's too bad that you and its publisher couldn't work out some sort of combo deal, because this is so much of Little Shop of Horrors. And I have to say that that Bruce Timm and Paul Dini were very good to us at Animato. They sent me model sheets after model sheets. They sent me part of a storyboard. We did a whole issue talking about that first iteration of Batman the Animated Series, which I still love. I still look at it, and to find out that they had looked at the Fleischer Superman cartoons to help determine a style for the drawing. It was certainly something I included, and certainly something I was very happy to learn about. But that book is like the companion to Little Shop of Horrors, because so much of the art, and it's beautiful. It's a beautifully produced book. It's just gorgeous. And when you grab it along with your Gorgo issue, man, is that impressive.
They're
it's
Bibles. They're Bibles.
Yeah, very impressive. Let me just start by saying, until the new restored Gorgo came out, I never
You asked me
watched
if
it.
I liked it.
Yes, right.
And did you like it enough? Is that the reason that you wanted to do this issue?
I saw Gorgo when it came out in '61. This is Saturday matinee time in Mason City, Iowa. I loved it. I sat in the balcony. I thought it was terrific. And then when we're always looking for something that's British, even if it might have an American symbol, but hadn't been done before. And I've read a half a dozen articles of Gorgo. They're all either the Paul Mandel interviews with Laurie and Laurie's book, and maybe something from Tom Weaver, something from Bill Warren. And that's it. That's all there was. But like Steve said, I never intended it to be 270 pages. I mean, there's like 160,000 words in there.
I'm so glad you didn't hold back, Nick. I can't tell you. This is like a dream come true. I've been
he kept saying it. I couldn't really show you the pictures yet because it would take away. Because like when I saw him, the only picture I'd ever seen behind the scenes of Laurie and Frank King, was on the internet. It was like 6 kilobytes, and they're kind of leaning against something. Said there's got to be in background a Gorgo model or something.
Right.
So when I'm first seeing photographs of the contact sheets, I'm going, son of a bitch, look at those. And then there's like 30 or 40 of these contact sheets. And I thought they're going to cost us a fortune, and they didn't. God bless them.
Oh God! I mean, the only ones I'd seen before is my friend Bob Eggleton, who contributed to this Gorgo issue as well. He sent me a number of years ago behind the scene photos of the head and shoulders of the suit. That was the most I'd ever seen outside of the publications and the published work you mentioned. There was so little out there about Gorgo.
Well, everything was owned by the Kings, not MGM. So MGM had no reason to go much beyond. The Kings had moved on to Captain Sinbad.
Yep.
And the fact, the only reason the thing survived, the contact sheets belonged to the continuity lady. And she donated it to this museum at this university in England.
Oh my God.
Anthony McKay knows how to use the internet. He's finding stuff right and left, and he says, well, it says here and that and this. So he sends a friend of his by train, and we're sitting there, I wonder what's there. And then we see him and go, oh my gosh, look at this. And then we're getting all these pages and pages and pages of background stuff from the Margaret Herrick and from the King brothers themselves. So all the contact sheets besides the shooting schedules, notes, handwritten notes. And Lee Kaplan in the late 1990s was writing off to the people who were on the film. And he's getting those stories to read about, like the King chasing those Lancers down the road to try and get them to appear in the parade. And we got like 12 or 14 of those people. It's just a confluence. Everything came together. And I said, we're not going to scrub in this. I don't think I edited one word from anybody's articles. Not yours, not anybody's.
No, you, yeah.
When I get somebody, I can't use the word hire because no money's changing.
Right.
They have to know what they're doing. And if they know what they're doing, and I know that I've given them their word count, if there is one, I just let them go. The only thing I say is no synopsis.
Right.
Yeah, in the sense of, because I see people do articles with 5 pages synopsis.
Yeah, there's so many books right now that are being published that are just collections of synopses, you know, with an excerpt or two from Tom Weaver interview or Bill Warren piece. And, you know, they don't add anything to the conversation.
Everything is there we can see. It's not film book time at Famous Monsters Film Lab.
The only reason I reached out to you about the Gamma people when I did is much like you're talking about McKay with you having the access to this amazing material that you've gathered. I had we have a mutual friend. I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong. Stan Giesea, Giesea. I found out that the Robert Aldrich papers were still at the UCLA library, and for some reason, in email exchanges with Stan, he said, well, I'll go look in the papers for you. And at that moment, I thought, wow, if there's a way to read the script that Robert Aldrich wrote that was not made into the film The Gamma People, this is worth researching and writing about. And Stan, bless him, not only went to the library, it turned out that the Robert Aldrich papers had never been sorted, Dick. They're in exactly the chaotic condition that they were donated in. They're just in boxes without any archiving or indexing to them. And Stan, bless him, took the time. I have no idea how many hours, days it took him. He found not only the original unproduced, unfilmed Robert Aldrich script, he found the shooting script as well for the film that John Gilling directed. So I'm able to compare the two. And that's when I wrote you and said, Dick, are you interested in an article about the Gamma
People? You got to cover these films too. They can't all be the Karnstein trilogy with Girls No Clothes On. These are interesting little films. It's like you're talking about Matt Harrison. He's a so-called retired Hollywood sound editor. He's supposed to have retired, but then he goes and works on the new Superman film. And he's worked on the new Planet of the Apes film. But he went out there as a friend. He found all the paper. He found the original Ivor Beddoes storyboards that he'd done. And then I have another friend who was retired from the British Film Institute. He found Ivor Beddoes paintings he had done. Like there's one of 4 different paintings where the Gorgo and baby Gorgo are going into the sea.
Right.
And he found stuff there and found some more. The line drawings and the schematics. I'm going, damn, doesn't stop, does it?
It's incredible. It's incredible.
It's one good thing. Well, I like a lot of things about the internet. It killed sales of magazines, but by same token, made possible to do magazines that you and I and Mike could have never have dreamed about in the past.
That's true. And there's also an aspect of, you know, and this is true, Mike, you and I have discussed it, you know, Dick, if you didn't do these issues of Little Shop of Horrors, all this information would be lost.
Yep.
Exactly.
Mike, if you didn't do this book on Tom Tyler, there would be no book on Tom Tyler. You know, I mean, I feel the clock ticking myself, that there's certain projects that if I don't get them done, that stuff will just be gone. And
well, when we do it, don't skip on it. Nobody else is going to do AD 72 and Satanic Rites of Dracula or whatever this stuff. You're going to get one shot at it. Give it everything you can.
It's true. But we also see the cumulative effect. It's because you did all these years of Little Shop of Horrors, that you then are invited to contribute to a package like Hammer doing Curse of Frankenstein in a definitive audio-visual package,
Well,
which brings it to another whole level.
The Asher audio interview and the Leakey audio interview came from my tapes done in the early 1980s.
Wow.
All digitalized.
Wow.
Thank goodness I didn't throw them away.
Yeah, yeah.
But Nancy came up to me a couple months ago and said, you're the only person still around who knew all of the big shot Hammer people. Not just as maybe you get an autograph, but you knew them all. You were either acquainted on friendly terms or were friends. And that's when I did the 10-part, I was 9 of them, The Men Who Made Hammer, for Shout Factory.
Right.
I knew Michael Carreras and Anthony Hines. I didn't know Jimmy Carreras. He knew who I was. I knew Brian Lawrence, who was their business manager. I knew Terrence Fisher. I knew Jack Asher, Jimmy Sangster. I did. I knew them all. It wasn't like let's go hang in the bar and have a beer, but they knew who I was. We talked about things other than Hammer, which is, to me, is when you're friends with somebody, not just
right.
And I keep pushing Hammer. Say, you need to release these all at once. Yeah, I know it's me talking, and God knows I got the ego for it. But I like the fact that all this would get out, that everybody could hear from somebody who talked with Jack Asher and knew these people. And Michael Carreras and I were sending faxes back and forth right up to the time he died. And I get invited to the last get together for him and all the Hammer people.
Wow.
That's ego time.
I also get frustrated when I see, there's a beautiful book that came out recently on monster makeup for the movies. And it frustrates me when I see a photo of Phil Leakey and he's identified as Roy Ashton. It's like, no, because this is what goes on in a lot of I'll use the term mainstream media. There's beautiful product being put out there, but there's a lot of misinformation out there as well. And, you're one of the correctives to that, Dick. I mean, when an issue of Little Shop comes out, when I was invited to do the commentary track for The Portrait of Dorian Gray, the 1973 Dan Curtis production, the first thing I did was dig through my Little Shop of Horrors, because I was like, I know that they've interviewed the people that worked on this,
I think that the strength that all of us have had is the fact that we were willing to tackle subjects that for our books that many people would be dismissive of. I really feel that there's 2 levels of film scholarship. One is our level, where we love the stuff that we're writing about. And then I think there's another level, which is the quote unquote, professional level, which generally I find really boring. I met a guy at this film festival in Rome, New York, called Capital Fest. His name is Thomas Reeder, and he wrote a book about Ben Pevar and his Universal unit.
PRC, the book on PRC.
He wrote a comprehensive book about Sam Newfield and his brother. Yeah. And it's an amazing survival story. These 2 guys, they were surfers, man. They rode the wave. Whatever the wave was, they rode it.
And the research he did was deep. Like, he had access to amazing material, and he's sharing it. What are the budgets and how quickly did they shoot Buster Crabbe PRC Westerns? He knew that. It's in the book. It's incredible.
It's like, that pointed me to the book about William Bodine, which I think came out from Scarecrow. And I didn't realize existed. And I said, my God, to me, he was always one-shot Bodine, make fun of him. Turned out he had an amazing career. He was a superstar director before he made a mistake of going to England in the 30s. And when he came back, everybody forgot him.
Right.
Didn't he even direct Mary Pickford in one of her films?
He had some fabulous films. He directed one of the latter day W.C. Fields, great film, very. But then he lost everything during the Depression, and he had helped people out, and of course, nobody paid him back. But when he came back, suddenly it was Monogram, PRC, but he kept working. He was Disney's almost favorite TV director at the end, and he directed into the mid '60s. What Frankenstein meets
Jesse James meets Frankenstein. Yep. Billy the Kid meets Dracula, and Jesse James meets Frankenstein's daughter. Yep.
I mean, I just, I was just watching something. I can't remember what, and someone was going on very solemnly about the impact of Pauline Kael on the film industry, and I thought, she was a reviewer, okay. Her one book about a movie was, of course, the whole issue
about
Citizen Kane. As much as people venerate Roger Ebert, to me, it's like, okay, these are his opinions. I get it. That's fine. But what is he telling me new? What is he telling me the insight of a production or the way a movie came together? This is what fascinates me. I want to know the backstory. I want to know these things.
That's why Little Shop, we decided long on we weren't just reviewing films. Think the film was great or not, you were going to know how it was made and who made it.
Yeah, and the who is the key thing, Dick. I mean, the beauty of Little Shop of Horrors in rereading back issues is you give us windows into the personalities of these people. You, as editor-publisher, I know you didn't do every single interview that was in Little Shop of Horrors, but the fact that you provided a venue for all these people who did have access to some of the people that you didn't have access to builds this huge composite of what Hammer Films was, who these people were. I laugh out loud sometimes in the interviews when it's like, you'll make connections between, so this person didn't get along with this person. Okay, that's kind of the filter I've got to read this through, right? Or you also, you have archived, not just through the interviews, but also the making of articles, how conflict within these studios created remarkable films that wouldn't be what they were without all the craziness that went on behind the scenes.
This side is fascinating because most performers that come in, they do their 30 minutes and they're gone. There's a beautiful actress in a couple of the early 70s Hammer films called Katya Wyeth. Her total interview was, I came in, I did it, I went home. And her husband actually watched the film. She had no memories. It's talking to the guy who swept the floor or was the focus puller or something like that. It was there from day one. Those are the people you want to talk to.
Yeah. They're the ones paying attention too.
You find too, like Mike or you got to go back to what you've written a couple of years before because you have no concept of what it was. You were so into having to edit it or putting together, you suddenly realize you don't know what you read.
Oh, I always surprise myself by reading stuff from years ago going, hey, yeah, that wasn't too bad. You mentioned to squeeze that out? Okay.
I was reading an interview with Bert Kwok, Cato.
Yeah.
And he's amazed that, this is an American magazine. Be sure to tell him that I got a knighthood. Because that's really impresses them over there in England. But it's stuff like that. I mean, damn. Or Robert Hardy.
Oh, yeah.
Genius of the mind. But his interview was fascinating. And I'm going, wow. And
it also becomes a way of, I'm glad you brought that up about, the focus pullers and the people who were working behind the scenes. Freddie Francis was always very disparaging of his work. But the fact that you included interviews with all these other people who worked with him is how you finally get a picture of, that's how that film got made that was directed by Freddie Francis, right? Because he didn't really want to talk about it. He didn't.
It wasn't too bad. He was my first interview. I sent him a reel-to-reel tape to do it on, which I never could figure out because I didn't have a reel-to-reel tape player. I had to take it out. I was still going to college at the time. I got my degree in art from the University of Northern Iowa and played it on a machine there with my advisor, who was really cute, so I didn't mind spending time with her. But yeah, that was a little bit better. That's like 1972.
Oh, that's early on, right?
He got a little more. He's still making movies. But
well, it was always heartening to me when I did an interview with someone. And I put together a whole bunch of my interviews in a book called 15 Minutes with, yes, it's a plug, folks.
Yeah, I've been meaning to buy that.
And I'll send you a copy, Dick.
Oh, good.
It always interests me. There are people who work in the entertainment business and work in movies who do pay attention to stuff. And what we as fans frequently don't understand is it's a job.
It's a business. It's a job. Yeah.
And just like my going into the newspaper office, am I going to remember a particular edition? Maybe not, because I'm doing so much. And these popular actors, you're going from set to set to set in some instances, especially character actors. But what I've discovered, it was easier to talk to a character actor than it was to a star.
Because the stars would have been separated from the group with their character, right, probably in a chair right down on the floor with them.
So my next book is on the Gordon brothers. I've got to write this. I've got to, just like I had to write the Tyler book and I had to write the Fleischer books. And Steve has been very helpful.
About halfway through rereading Tom Weaver's Richard Gordon book. I mean,
well,
stuff I'm giving away, I am not giving away the Weaver interview books. I just read his latest one.
Tom is a great interviewer.
Get stuff out of people.
Yeah. Well, what this book is going to be different than Tom's book, is that it's going to have a lot of stuff about Alex, and also Steve has managed to find like stuff they wrote for fanzines, both of them.
Yeah, Dick, wow. I found I had back issues, not every issue, but I had many back issues of a zine called Spectre, Spectre, and they predating a Little Shop of Horrors were primarily focused,
like from the 1960s, mid to late.
That's it. That's it.
I used to have copies of that.
And they were obsessed with the British films, the British fantasy, horror, and science fiction films. And they particularly championed Richard Gordon. And Richard, as Richard often did, as you know from experience, began corresponding with them, right?
Oh, yeah. And you could have a whole article of just his letters.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. I've been photocopying for Mike everything in those issues of Spectre that I was fortunate enough to stumble on in my collection. But I'm also now going through every issue of Film Facts because Richard and Alex used to write to Film Facts as well. And I just want to make sure, Mike, that you have access to that.
Did you meet Lee and or Cushing?
I met Lee just to shake his hand and get an autographed biography. I was a week away from meeting Cushing, but he was too sick and he died. But in the Ted Nugent documentary at the end, Flesh and Blood,
yep,
Cushing holds up a copy of Little Shop and talks about it.
Oh, so, wow. That's right.
Well, that's pretty cool, too.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, can I tell you how I met Peter Cushing?
No. Yeah.
So I'm sure you remember that Famous Monsters of Filmland did 2 conventions in New York City in the mid-70s. The first one was a debacle. I mean, it was awful. But the second one, Sir Michael Carreras came over with Peter Cushing. And it was conducted in the old Hotel Commodore, which was the hotel that was part of Grand Central Station. And this is where Phil Seuling had his original New York Comic Cons. It was quite a place to go to see a convention. They had a massage parlor on the mezzanine in the lobby, which was actually raided by the police while I was there for a convention. So I went to the second one because they said that Carreras was going to be there and Cushing was going to be there. So I was walking around, and there in the lobby was Peter Cushing leaning up against a high table just by himself. And I went up, introduced myself, told him, "Welcome to New York." He was so sweet. I don't like to use that term very often, but it was immediate that this guy was so professional, so nice, so appreciative of fans. And he signed autographs for everyone. And this was well before a fee for an autograph. He was pretty freaking amazing. Very impressive to me. Very impressive.
Ingrid Pitt was there that day too.
Who was that?
Ingrid Pitt was there that day too.
And Barbara Lee was there.
Mm.
And at one point, Carreras came out on stage and made the announcement that Hammer was going to do Vampirella, which was the reason the Hammer people were there is because, of course, James Warren published Vampirella magazine.
Right.
And it was clear that this was part of advanced publicity. And Barbara Lee came out, and of course the audience was mostly teenage to young men. And of course, there was an absolute silence because there was a girl in Vampirella costume at a con. It was just like, but he was great. He was great. Carreras was very interesting to have him talk about Hammer. A few years later, there was a Fangoria show in New York I attended, and Christopher Lee was there, and he did a Q&A. And so I waited patiently, and then I stuck up my hand and I said, Mr. Lee, you've been directed by many people. Could you explain what the difference is between being directed by Jess Franco and Billy Wilder? And he looked at me like I had just said, "Fuck you." I mean, there was a look on his face, and he just looked at me and says, they're both very similar, but they both have different techniques. Next. And I thought, did I insult him by telling him?
You said Franco. You said the word Franco.
But how many films did Christopher Lee do willingly with Jess Franco?
Yeah, if you
Well, he was always green, Chris, but then he badmouthed it.
Oh,
well,
right. Maybe if you had said Mario Bava and Billy Wilder, you'd have got the different answer. So
No,
I
I
may have gotten an answer.
The point of Mike's question.
Yeah.
Somebody who's getting it through as fast as he can, and somebody Billy Wilder who's just going to go and go.
Yeah.
To me, it was just. Also, I wanted him to expound upon what it's like to be an actor, and that's like, I'm not acting, and someone wants to give me money to be in this film. Okay, I'll do that. And it was clear that Christopher Lee was a working actor. That's not an insult. No. That's just the reality. And
the director Mick Garris is in the Little Shop documentary, and he was saying, I'm on the phone with Christopher Lee, and I'm saying to myself, oh my gosh, I'm talking to Christopher Lee. 2 hours later, says, oh my gosh, I'm still talking to Christopher Lee.
I had a good friend, Bill Kelly, who passed away quite a number of years ago.
Oh yeah, Bill, I'd known him for years.
Yeah, and Bill spoke of you very fondly, and Bill knew Christopher Lee, and Christopher Lee liked Bill and would call Bill and tell him jokes. And whenever one of those conversations happened, my phone would ring, regardless of what time.
2 in the morning when I had to get the next day.
Exactly. And it would be Bill Kelly saying, oh, Christopher Lee just told me this joke. They were never good jokes, but it was something.
Why I could get Christopher Lee to talk about Dracula in Little Shop of Horrors was Bill Kelly. Because in no way he would open up like he did to anybody else.
Wow. Yeah, well, they were tight. They were tight. And my history with Bill goes back again to the Kubert School. Bill Kelly was writing for one of the local New Jersey newspapers. I met him when he was, not much older than me. I was 21 when I started at Kubert School. And Bill had his own collection of 16 millimeter prints. and he would show movies in the classroom at night. And Joe Kubert would come to watch them. And I'll never forget the night that Bill showed us The Conqueror Worm, The Witchfinder General. And Joe Kubert stayed for every second of that film. And I remember looking over at Joe, and Joe didn't have much tolerance for violent films. He was completely captivated by that film. His hands were fists, and his knuckles were white by the end of The Conqueror Worm.
I may one of the few, but I always thought that The Conqueror Worm was a great title to market that in the United States. I think it's a terrific title. Oh no, it's got to be The Witchfinder General. Well, maybe The Conqueror Worm is a heck of titling for that film.
Yeah, and the ad campaign, a little bit
of that poem that has nothing to do with it, but it's Poe.
Yeah, and the ad campaign was incredible. You know, if leave the kids at home, and if you're too squeamish, stay with them. You know,
and for once they weren't lying.
They were not. But Bill Kelly, you know, and his relationship with Chris Lee is the reason I brought up Bill's name. And I knew that he knew you because he, you know, Bill brought in Hammer films. He showed us Pirates of Blood River. You know, he had a print of Pirates of Blood River. And he loved all the Hammer stuff, everything. I don't think there was a Hammer film that Bill did not revere.
I wonder if anybody even collects 16 mil anymore. I mean, there was a book out on it which I read, but they're all aging out. And
yeah. So I don't mean to interrupt our conversation just for a device to embarrass Steve in front of you, Dick, but I have to because that's my job.
Okay.
So Steve got to meet Ingrid Pitt, and it left an enduring impression on him. Steve, would you like to regale Dick with your meeting with Ingrid Pitt?
At ChillerCon in New Jersey, Dick, and this is before anybody was paying for autographs. It's when these conventions you could actually, you know, moderate a panel with a group of actors, and it wasn't a big deal. So I was asked by Kevin Clement, who organized ChillerCon, bless him. Steve, would you moderate a panel with Ingrid Pitt? And do you remember who else was on the panel, Mike? With
nope.
I can't remember, but I'll never forget.
Ingrid Pitt was it, baby.
Ingrid Pitt. So I knew Ingrid's films pretty well, and I started by asking her about The Sound of Horror, the Spanish film.
Oh, the Invisible Dinosaur.
The Invisible Dinosaur movie. And Ingrid took an instant mischievous liking to me because I asked her about Soledad Miranda and what was it like working with her and so on. And Ingrid, who was still stunningly beautiful, puts her hand behind my back and begins tracing her fingers up and down my spine while I'm asking her questions. Mike was sitting in the first or second row, and he could see I was turning beet red because Ingrid Pitt was fondling my back during the panel. She was amazing.
Do you still have the photo that I took of the two of you? I took a photo.
I have it here someplace.
I met Ingrid, and first time was in November '77, my first convention, and she was the horror elite con. But a couple later ones, but her and Nancy got along really well.
Oh, excellent!
Nice. Oh, my favorite story though on Hammer actress, but not. Barbara Shelley was at a FanX, and we're up in the room. Her and Tom Johnson and I was questions we're going to ask her for a big Q&A. And when they're done, I said, you know, of all the Hammer actresses, you're the one I'd most want to sleep with because I want to talk to you afterwards. And she laughed and hugged me. I just had a sense she'd get a kick out of it. My Hammer girlfriend was Susan Farmer. We were actually a couple for a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, she called me in '93, because I'd written to her agent, tried to do an interview. Because Mike, she was in The Cute Blonde in Dracula, Prince of Darkness. She was in Rasputin the Mad Monk. A couple of really adorable blonde. But now she's early 50s, still great looking. I'm in my late 50s, 40s, not so great looking. But she's drunk, and I have to answer a question, but she's insulting me. And finally said, I'm sorry I bothered you, and I hung up. And the next night she tries to call back collect again. I wouldn't accept the call. So she called back and said, why wouldn't you accept my call? And I told her, well, you basically spent a half hour yesterday calling me names and making fun of me. Well, short story is we came very close. I went over to England. I met her 5 or 6 times over the next year and a half. I went over and spent a week with her. But she drank. She smoked. Her father was a drunk and had died falling down the steps. Her mother had sent her and her brother off to schools and that. She was molested as a young girl.
Oh, God.
And she had she was a sweetheart. She was so nice. But I'd already had enough of smokers because I don't smoke. My first wife smoked and my short-lived second one did. But we stayed friends until the end. She'd write letters and she liked Nancy.
Oh,
but I look at those pictures, that cute blonde. I said, man, remember the first time she took her clothes off? And I'm going, oh, God. And like I say, she's in her 50s, but she was a nice looking 50-year-old woman. But she
Wow.
was.
But that was a hell of a nice. That was the hell of an icebreaker with Barbara Shelley.
That
was a great icebreaker.
But she's that kind of fun, open woman, and she hadn't had her stroke yet. And when we did the talk, and Tom Johnson then mentioned a little child, and she led the cheers, so she was #1 in my book.
Wow.
Well, we're ending toward the end of our time here. I don't know if Zoom, I'm paying for Zoom, so I'm assuming they're going to extend it, but I just wanted to do a little bit of a lightning round with you, Dick.
Oh, go for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite Hammer film? A film that you watch over and over and you enjoy it each time?
The Brides of Dracula is my favorite Hammer film.
That's
the one
great.
who I would show to people would be Horror Dracula because it's short, sweet, and a lot happens. The one that made me a Hammer fan is Dracula has risen from the grave.
Excellent. Okay. Michael Carreras, I read a quote from him once that he would rather, instead of having another Peter Cushing, he'd rather have 3 more actors like Christopher Lee. Who do you think was the better performer, Cushing or Lee?
The better performer was Cushing because he was an all-around actor. But for being Christopher Lee and bringing the people into theaters, that's Christopher Lee. He told me towards the end that the Draculas all made money this career. He said the Frankensteins made just enough to warrant doing another one and to keep Peter Cushing busy. But by late 60s, 70s, it was Christopher Lee.
Okay. And this will be controversial, but of any of the new films in the last 10, 15 years with the Hammer tag on it, that it's produced by Hammer, do you think they're really Hammer films?
Just as much as the ones in the 70s. Hammer, for many years, was an in-house production company. But then by the 70s, people were bringing in projects. And that's the way it works these days. You don't have an in-house where you're developing projects and that. No, there's just as much Hammer films as Demons of the Mind or anything else that was brought to them by somebody else.
Okay.
I mean, Captain Plague Night Creatures was brought to them by something else, and that's 1961.
And I enjoy that film a great deal. In fact, I
do
got
too.
a lobby card right over there. You can't see it, but it's hanging on the wall.
Horrors number 17.
Yeah.
I sat in the Bray Studios lot with the producer and the director and my little recorder, asked them questions.
Excellent.
And that's cool. This is where all the night writers are going, and we're just sitting there.
Excellent. I have 3 questions to end with too, Richard, if I may. What is your favorite Michael Ripper character?
That's great.
The Mummy Shroud, he is so sad, and he actually gets to do something. And when he lost his glasses and gets wrapped up in the bed sheet and thrown out the window, I mean, that might make you cry.
Yeah. Well, that leads to my second question, and I didn't prompt you on this. Which Hammer film moved you to tears? Is there one?
Hands of the Ripper at the end.
Me too. Oh my God!
It floats down. You got that classical music playing. She floats like a little leaf down towards Harry Porter and lands on him. And how can you watch that and not have a tear in your eye?
I first saw that at the drive-in on the double bill that it was released with here, and there I was sitting in a car with my high school best friend, Bill Hunter, and tears formed in my eyes in that last shot. Like and for that to happen at a drive-in with the horrible sound and all of that.
It's kind of sad too. We interviewed Anhard Rees, and I still wouldn't think much of film. But her husband, who was a zillionaire, loved it. Her two boys loved it. Said, "Well, this is a film of some grand." She was dying of cancer at the time. We didn't know it.
Oh God!
As every picture you see of people acting in the 60s and 70s, men and women, they're all smoking.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my final question for you, out of all the Hammer non-franchise films, not Dracula, not Frankenstein, not the Karnsteins, do you have a favorite of those odd non sequitur Hammer films?
The Lost Continent. It's the only one I've ever done a commentary for, and the only one I'll ever do it. I saw that at the theater at a double feature with it's either Quatermass and the Pit or The Devil Rides Out. I loved it. It was H.P. Lovecraft. It was a ship of fools, and then it's this ridiculous wild island. And I love the music score. Yeah, Lost Continent. I can watch that again and again.
I just turned a friend on to Lost Continent 2 years ago, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. So,
do you have the DVD?
Oh yeah.
Can you lend it to me? Because I've always wanted to see it, and I've never been able to find it.
Okay, this is a perfect Cine-Geezer moment.
It's on Blu-ray from Shout Factory with my commentary.
Okay, there we go. I'll buy it. Damn it! I'll buy it.
Yeah, Michael Prayer's The Men Who Made Hammer on it.
There you go. Okay, perfect. That's a perfect Cine-Geezer finale right there. So
it's been great fun. People were just making each other in their sentence because we know this shit, unfortunately.
Well, I have to say,
I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, and I don't gamble. I'm the world's most boring person, but bring on Hammer films, my old friends.
There we go. Well, before we go, we always recommend a book that we've recently read. Dick, what recent book have you read that you would recommend people pick up?
The newest collection of the Tom Weaver interviews, because there's so few people still alive. The fact that anybody interview is amazing.
And what's the title on that book? Do you know?
Let's look real quick. I got it over here.
Okay.
Creature feature creators.
Excellent.
And I'm halfway through Mike's book.
God bless.
Tom Tyler.
The Tom Tyler book.
When I'm upstairs eating my hamburger, trying not to spill, I almost spilled spaghetti sauce all over the Baba book by Tim Lucas once. That's what I'm asking. No spaghetti sauce on Tom Tyler, though.
At least it would have been red, Dick. Mike, what's your current book that you'd recommend?
Okay, I'm being completely self-serving here.
No.
Yes. Here's the brand new, and I mean brand new, Out of the Inkwell collection from Tommy Stathis and Cartoons on Film. And there is a pretty comprehensive booklet talking about the early days, written by yours truly. So that's my self-serving plug. My less self-serving plug is this book from Steve Bissette, and this is a great collection of his monster drawings. However, what makes this book actually really substantial is Steve writes this very good, very entertaining, but in-depth essay about why monsters, why draw monsters, why like monsters, why go to horror films with monsters. And that elevates his art even more because there's a reason for what he does. So yes, this is available. So get this. And this has just been available. It's on Amazon and will probably be sold through Tommy's website a little bit later on. So
and the hardcover of Little Shop 52 on Gorgo will probably be available on Amazon the end of January. My sister has got to get it prepared, and there's like 5 photographs that the quality wasn't as good as we thought they were. They're not different, so they'll be upgraded. But basically, it's the soft cover with hardcover.
I'm ordering that, and I'll end with what I just finished reading, a Christmas gift from my beloved wife Marjorie. The Friendship and Film Scores That Changed Cinema, Hitchcock and Herman by Stephen C. Smith. This is a terrific book Stephen Smith
Does it
wrote.
get into the end when him and Hitchcock and Herman had the falling out?
Oh yeah. It gets into all of that, and he actually analyzes each of the scores, not in a single chapter, but usually 2 chapters for each film, and it is about the relationship that Hitchcock and Herman had. Highly recommend this book, and it's not an academic press book. Stephen Smith is the fellow who wrote the Bernard Herrmann biography that came out about 20 years ago. And the book I'm currently reading, which I had to mention, I found out that there were some Monarch paperbacks I didn't have in my collection. And there was a Monarch paperback called Rasputin, the Mad Monk, that was written and published 3 years before the Hammer film. So it has nothing to do with the Hammer film, but how could I not get myself a copy?
The girl doesn't have anything on top, so it's
I know. Look at this. And so this is what is by my bed right now that I'm reading, is the unaffiliated with Hammer, Rasputin the Mad Monk. So
my next big move is, now they got them all out, is Stranger Things. I can watch the final season and all the episodes.
Oh, well, then you have a marathon ahead of you, my friend.
But I wasn't going to start it at Thanksgiving and then continue it at Christmas and then finish it at New Year's. Hey, I'm retired. Between so I'll watch it.
Well, Dick, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation.
Yeah,
really
Dick,
appreciate it.
This has been a real honor. And Dick, I will do my best to rein myself in writing about the Gamma people. It won't be 100,000 words. This I vow.